Hi everyone, welcome back to Tea with Jules. This is Leane Flynn and we are going to be having a beautiful chat today. Leane's been living with ovarian cancer for a number of years. I've heard her talk about her story on a number of occasions and it moved me so deeply that I wanted to have her on the show so she could share her story with you guys. So let's have some tea. Well, I'm so grateful that you're here. I really am. I heard you speak on 2 occasions at the Witchery White Shirt campaign, and then again recently when George Jensen was doing this collaboration with the Ovarian Cancer Foundation to raise money and awareness for ovarian cancer. I felt very moved by your story, and I instantly thought, I want to have Leane to have a cup of tea with me to share your story even further, in hopes that women will understand what ovarian cancer is and what we can do about it, and hopefully alter the future. So take me back to how you grew up, where you grew up, and what you were doing.
Mum and Dad had 2 sets of twins.
Wow.
And back then, that was unheard of. We made the local papers all the time. So that's been a big part of growing up. It's always been the twin thing.
So growing up with 4 kids, 2 sets of twins, was it chaotic? Was it calm? Was it structured?
Mum was very structured. She was a night supervisor at the local hospital. So she worked 30 years night shift. And we were run like an army. So, you know, the sheets were always done on a certain day. We had the same meals every day, every week. No one ever, you know, went without. It was all done.
I think that's the way to survive that with 4 kids and working mother, is to be structured and just to have a plan.
You have to be organised. That's probably why I found it so hard with this illness and everything around it, to have so little control over anything.
Yeah.
I've always been the one that's been in control. I've always planned everything, I've always had everything organised. To relinquish all control over everything has been hard.
So you're growing up at home. You've had the same meal every Wednesday your whole life.
Which was like mash or something.
Meat and 3 veg. And so...
happy childhood.
So you're just getting on your merry way, got married. Got 3 children.
Met at uni, got married, life was just going along. Had our 3 daughters who are now 23, 20 and 15. So yes, everything was going along as we'd planned, pretty much as you can plan these things. And that was when, in 2017, when I was diagnosed with ovarian cancer. So that's when everything came to a grinding halt, or everything we thought we had planned and everything we could sort of rely on, or, you know. And I guess that's a common thing. You hear of that when people who are diagnosed with cancer, you know, you do take for granted that you are well and that life is, you know, we all know we're going to die eventually, but you always assume it's going to be a long time away and you'll be old, you know, and fall asleep, you know, that's what we hope for. And the shocking part with this was because there were no symptoms, or very few vague whispering symptoms, nothing that you would think was a sign of something seriously wrong.
Like what was happening for you?
Because I've gone over that time in my mind a few times thinking, could I have noticed earlier? You know, could I have done something earlier to make it less of a sort of life sentence for me? But in all honesty, there was nothing. So I basically felt bloated more often than normal. You know, I guess that was the key. But at 49, at that point, I thought, oh well, I'm going into menopause. So, and I'd heard so many women, and even my friends, talking about what we affectionately call the thickening, which is, you know, just this spread, middle-aged spread. And I thought, well, that's what I'm going into. Because I did feel thicker and heavier through, you know, my stomach area. But no pain, no fatigue, nothing that would make me think I was feeling any less ordinary than any other day. So that wouldn't have got me going to the doctors, because I had just put that down to menopause. But then it was a change in toilet habits. I needed to urinate more frequently. And that's what prompted me to go to the doctors. So I probably noticed that in February of 2017, where I used to go for long walks and runs, and I'd barely get to the house and I'd think, oh, I've got to go home again. This is really impacting on my life. That was what prompted me to go to the doctor, which was in the April then. So that was probably like 6 weeks later And she said, look, it all sounds menopausal to me, and I'm sure it's going to be easy fixed. But thankfully, because I have heard of a lot of women who say they have to go repeatedly to the doctors till they're taken seriously, thankfully my doctor said, let's just send you for some tests just to make sure, and then we'll go from there. No urgency though, just when you get around to it.
Yeah.
As luck...
Was that like blood tests, urine
blood
tests?
test and just blood test and an ultrasound.
Okay.
And as luck would have it, there was this vacancy that Friday, and because school holidays were starting the week after, I thought I'll just get out of the way and then we can just get on with life. That's what I thought. So I went, it was Friday the 7th of April, which happens to be my closest and oldest friend's birthday. It was her 50th birthday. And it's so bizarre because this is when I say it changed instantly. I was walking to get my blood test in the morning because it was a glorious autumn day in Melbourne. And I messaged her and said, I can't wait to see you tomorrow for your birthday. It's the 50th party. You know, so looking forward to it. It's going to be great. And so then I got the blood test and then I went and had the scan. When I was having the scan, that's when I started to think, I think something could be wrong, because I could just read the lady who was doing the scan just seemed to get a little anxious. And she said to me, your doctor is going to call you. And I said, everything's okay, isn't it? And I know they can't tell you.
Yeah.
I had to ask. And she just said, look, your doctor will call you. And that's when I was leaving, and I rang Justin and I said, look, I have a bad feeling about this. And he said, you're such a drama queen. I'll never forget that. He said, you're such a drama queen, you don't have to go worst case scenario every time. And I thought, I don't think I do go worst case scenario every time. But anyway, I thought, okay, fine. But I missed a call while I was talking to him, which was my doctor, saying you have to come in immediately. Okay. Don't go home, come straight in. That was the moment. So then I rang Justin back and said, I don't think this is me being dramatic. I think there's something seriously wrong, because this has never happened to me before.
Yeah.
So he was coming straight home from work, but I went into the doctor's. So I was there alone at the time, which in hindsight was probably not the best thing, but I did just go straight in. That's what she said to do. And so then when I went in to see her, she said, I'd like to say I have doubts, but you have ovarian cancer. And because I knew nothing about it, nothing at all. I'd sort of heard bits and pieces, but I really hadn't heard much, and I didn't know anything. I didn't have one question to ask her. I'm just sitting there thinking, this morning I was walking thinking what a glorious day it is. Yeah. And now I'm sitting here being told that I have cancer. That's how it went.
Yeah, that is huge. And so in that moment, what sort of things go through your mind when it's confirmed?
Yeah.
You've got cancer?
Your children, that's the first thing.
Yeah.
And then I thought, how am I going to tell everybody? And I was in shock. I don't even really know what was going through my mind. But I guess part of me was thinking, oh look, I've only had seriously symptoms for probably a month or two. How bad can it be? And I remember saying that to my husband. We went for a walk together that night. And I said to him, look, I'd Googled a bit, even though they say don't Google it. I Googled a bit and I said, realistically, if ovarian cancer is caught in the early stages, it's got a 90% recovery. So I still think I'm going to be okay because I'm not sick.
Right, you felt nothing except for needing
No.
to go to the toilet and a bit bloated.
Yep, and then I had to ring Karen, my friend, and I didn't actually, I got my sister to ring her because I just thought I can't bring myself, and I don't want to ruin her birthday. Just say, look, we're not going to get to your birthday. And she said, look, Leanne's sick now. I know, because she rang me on the next day in the morning, and I think she was a bit annoyed with me because I didn't get to her birthday. Yeah. And she said to me, "What? You don't sound sick to me. What's going on?" I said to her, "I don't want to tell you because I don't want to ruin your birthday." And she's like, "No, tell me." And I said, "Well, I've got ovarian cancer." Who knew, And she's like, she was crying, and I thought, oh, and she said, well, there's no question of not ruining my birthday, I have to be there. So on the Friday afternoon after she told me I was in hospital having a CT scan, Monday afternoon I had an appointment with an oncologist. Thursday I had an appointment with a surgeon. So this is it. I just didn't know how to cope with it. Yeah, so on the Sunday, I remember everybody, all the family and everyone came and gathered together, and they're all sitting around the table, and everyone brought food because, that's what they do. Yeah. And they're all sort of eating and talking, and I'm sitting there thinking, is this for real? We're not just gathering here for a pleasant occasion. Everyone's gathering to talk about, well, not even talk about, but I don't know what we're gathering for. Everyone just felt the need to gather. And it was very surreal to sit there watching everyone thinking, And, you know, it's because of me.
It's hard to know what to do
It's
as
really
a
hard.
friend, as a family member.
Yeah, how to support
really
someone
hard.
through that.
Yeah.
I didn't even know what I needed myself. I didn't know. I didn't want to be left alone, but then I didn't want to be socialising. I didn't know. I'm trying to act normally. It was really weird, really weird. We went to see the oncologist on the Monday, Justin and I, and that was horrible. She was in the oncology ward. Everyone's having their chemo, and this is quite confronting for someone who's never been even unwell. To go in the ward and you see all these people all plugged in. Justin's going greyer and greyer.
Oh my gosh.
And I'm saying, you've got to hold it together because we have to be focused here. We have to hear what she has to say, you know. And so, yes, so I met with her and she said, look, you may not need chemo. After surgery, they'll know more. You know, this is just in case. It may not happen. And I thought, oh, okay, look, it might not be as bad. And then we met the surgeon on Thursday and she's like, oh no, it's bad. She said, have you seen the scan? And I'm like, well, no. And she showed me and I couldn't see it anyway, but she said, we actually need 2 surgeons. It was attached to my bowel, it was attached to my liver and diaphragm. I was riddled with it. She said, this is, huge. They tried to do surgery within a week, but it was school holidays and it was April, so then it was Easter. And then it was Anzac Day, so it was actually 3 weeks after that I actually went in for surgery on a Sunday because they just had to fit me in. So it was that lead up to that was pretty awful. Family, everyone was angry and sad, and it was just awful.
How were your daughters through that?
Yeah. They were, angry with me, I think, at first. They were angry at first, and then we got past that. And then they were supportive, of course, and scared that they're losing their mum.
Can we just go back to anger? Because I know that is a huge part of,
I was really surprised.
Receiving bad news. It really is. It's one of the emotions you sort of have to work through.
Yeah.
They were angry. You were sick.
I don't know. Angry, I don't know. It was overriding anger was the feeling. And I was really surprised too, because I thought, I didn't know what to do with it. And I don't think they knew what to do with it. Yeah, and I don't think they expected it. Everyone felt just so awful. And then I went in for surgery, which couldn't come fast enough really, because by the time I knew it was there, I just wanted it out. And that was like a 12-hour surgery. And I woke up in ICU and I think I had something like 15 tubes coming out of me, and I was in ICU for 8 days. It was a long time. Lucky I wasn't really with it. They had me all spaced out for that. But the surgery went well and I recovered well. I was in hospital for about 3 weeks in total, and that all went as well as could be expected. But then they said, yes, I was stage 3C advanced, which is not a good place to be in any cancer. I think it's quite advanced stage. But with ovarian cancer, it tends to be found at stage 3 and above regularly. I think 85% of them are found in the advanced stages because there are no symptoms. And as women, we accommodate growth. So until it's pushing on an organ or it's doing something that it shouldn't do, it's not found. Yeah. And that's the thing. For me, I think at least if I braced myself for it, I was prepared for it, and they said, okay, so you've got to go into chemo. They said, very happy with the results from the surgery. I recovered very well because I was so healthy, ironically. And then they said, so straight into chemo. So 3 weeks later, I started chemo from June into November. And they do weekly blood tests, and the cancer markers were going down, down, down. So I had a great result to chemo. I sort of walked away with as good as possible a result from that. No evidence of disease, NED, that's what everybody wants. Got that and thought, okay, let's just hope that we can put that behind us and we can move on. But unfortunately, no. And ovarian cancer, when found in stages 3 and over, it has a 90% recurrence rate. So they all sort of say it will come back. But some people get years, you know, and I thought, well, why not me? That was my mantra all the way through, why not me? But some don't, and I didn't. And because it came back within 6 months of chemo, it's also deemed as platinum resistant. All the chemo drugs are platinum, which makes it that much harder to treat.
Oh my gosh.
So then I thought, all right, well, I've got to go back in again, roll my sleeves up and go back. They can't do surgery again. With ovarian cancer, usually when it's found, it's massive tumours. But as it develops and comes back, it scatters everywhere. So surgery is not an option. As a friend of mine once said, who had ovarian cancer, it's like fairy dust or sawdust, however you want to look at it, all throughout. So they can't operate again. So we only have chemo. And because there has been so little research done into ovarian cancer, chemo, the chemo they were doing 30 years ago is the chemo we're using now. And it works for some people and it doesn't work for others, and they don't know why. Still need to do testing on that. Yes, so I went back into chemo, a different chemo, try a different one, and I responded well, thankfully. And I finished that in October of 2018, and once again, no evidence of disease. I had a great result. 4 months later, it's back again. So it's incurable, like it's not going to go away for any length of time. So I was back into chemo in February of this year, which I only did 4 months this time because I responded quite well. So I finished in about the June, and I'm now on another drug that I have to still go in every 3 weeks and have intravenously, and that they're hoping that will keep me in remission for longer, but they don't know. And so it's very much wait and see. So right here and now, I'm 12 weeks post chemo. The cancer has always come back at the 16-week mark. So this is where I'm starting to get a bit edgy, because I'm thinking if this drug I'm on is not working, the cancer could come back at any time from here on in. I had treatment and a blood test on Monday, just gone, and I was quite tense about it. Up until now I've been quite okay, but I got the results on Tuesday and they were okay. Because I'm in there every 3 weeks, it's like I feel like I'm living till next 3 weeks. And then I'll be anxious again. I'll have another blood test, and if I'm lucky, levels will be down again. But as soon as they start going up, as I spoke to my oncologist on Monday, it's straight back into chemo for me. And chemo will stop working. It will. So the more I'm using it, the more frequently I'm using it, the more I think I'm eating into my 9 lives.
Right.
So that's where we are at the moment.
Wow.
Big story.
Big. Thank you for sharing, because that's hard to get through.
You know, my purpose now is to tell other women about this. Now, I speak at a lot of events and I get all these women running up to me afterwards saying, okay, what are the tests? What do we need to do? And that's when I have to say, hang on a minute. There is no detection test. There is no way of detecting this. So the tests... Is
that because of where it is in your body? Why
because they haven't had funding.
Oh.
It's because there hasn't been funding.
Okay.
So like your pap smear picks up cervical cancer, it could just be a blood test or something along those lines. But because they haven't had the funding and they haven't done the research, they have no detection test.
Right.
So we have a cancer out there that is killing more women than breast cancer, than any other gynecological cancer, and is very aggressive and fast growing, and yet we have no way of picking up. And so this scan and blood test that I had, they're used for diagnosis. You have the cancer. If it's going to show up in a blood test and a scan, you have it.
Got it.
And it's usually at later stages. The only time it's found earlier is if it's found by accident. Sometimes if women are having fertility problems or something and they have some checks done, it can be found, but otherwise it's found in the later stages. And this is why when I became aware of all this, I thought, well, I have to do something with this information now. It's wrong and it has to change. And that's why I thought, while I can and I'm able to talk and touch people with my story, I will do it, because people need to be aware so that we make some noise.
So how do we help?
I suppose, well, we need to raise money. We need the government to take it seriously. We need people to get behind it so that they can understand that this is a serious health risk for all women. I think it's something like 10%, no, not even, I think it's 5% of ovarian cancers are actually genetically based. So it's not genetic. So it's random. They don't know what's causing it. They don't know how to detect it. And they don't know how to treat it. It just is mind-blowing that we can live in this day and age where we have so many developments in medical treatments, and yet they can still be so unknowledgeable about this.
So basically, the money needs to be there in order to find the way to detect it.
I've made some, and look, they're getting closer. That's why I started as an ambassador for the Ovarian Cancer Research Foundation, because they're all about research, and I've got to know a lot of the scientists through that. And some of them have, nearly lost their jobs because the money's not there. And one that I've sort of become quite friends with, last year they had to do a last-minute dash and a fundraiser through the Ovarian Cancer Research Foundation to raise enough money to pay her. And she said she's like passionate about it. She's been working for 10 years and feels like she's getting closer. And then she'd have to walk away because there's no money there to pay her.
Yeah.
And all her knowledge would go with her.
Right. Because it can't be a passion project when you need to put food on the table.
She's got family.
Yeah.
So this is where we all sit back and say this is so wrong. And the more we can get people behind it and aware of it, and sort of, you know, if they're thinking about a fundraiser, maybe think of ovarian cancer instead of others. You know, it just seems to be the one that's just been swept under the rug. It's not an easy fix. It's going to take a long time. It's a very complicated cancer. There's all these different strains and there's different types, and so I think in terms of like politically, if it can't be fixed in a 3-year period, they don't want to know about it because it's money for nothing as far as they're concerned. But someone has to start somewhere.
Well, that's right. And you as a person sitting here with it, who understands what it's like to be diagnosed and then have to live with it, of course you're going to talk about it. Of course you're going to say, I'm a human being with a family. Come on, let's do something
and I have
about
so many
this.
friends, my sisters, my daughters. I don't want to see other people going through this. You know, I put everything out on Instagram and Facebook. I share my journey very openly, and I get so many young women, particularly, writing to me who have been diagnosed in their 20s, asking me questions about different things to do with treatment and stuff like that. And I just think it's continuing to happen, and it's just got to. In fact, I think it's getting worse, and it has to stop. They are getting closer with an early detection test, but it's not happening fast enough. If I had had an early detection test, I wouldn't be sitting here right now. Because I was up to date with all my health tests and checks.
Yeah. So the bottom line, if we're going to tell people what we can do practically, it would be to donate money.
Yes, or hold fundraisers. You know, I know single people, not everyone has their bills, and there's so many worthy causes out there. But hold fundraisers and just maybe talk about it. Be aware of your body. I know they say if you notice anything out of the ordinary for more than, you know, a couple of weeks, go to your doctor. But even then, push the doctor, because I've spoken to so many women who've gone and been put down to intolerance, food intolerance, or that they needed to lose weight, or that it's just something, it's just part of being a woman. Just test me. And look, as I said, it's not detection. Going for a test now doesn't mean anything a month later, as it's so aggressive.
Yeah.
But it's just making everyone aware that we need to do something about this.
And that's what you're here to do.
That's right.
I love that. And it's so, the bravery, I'm calling this series the Brave series of Tea with Jules. The bravery to, be ill, because that is like a whole other level of,
dealing with
tiredness and not only that,
and just facing your own mortality.
That's right. It's
every day.
Huge. It's huge, and then to be talking about that. But in order to do what you feel like you need and want to do, then you need to talk about it. To me, that is brave, and you've fought the good fight thus far. You've done so amazing.
I'm trying. Look,
you've done so amazing.
I can't take credit for the physical part of it, because you're only as good as the treatment you receive. And I've just been incredibly lucky that I have responded well to the treatment, but it hasn't made me too sick. I sit in chemo with so many other women who get every possible side effect and are so unwell. You know, and that's where I think, you know, I've just been lucky that I can get out here and talk about it as much as I can.
How do you think it's changed you?
In some ways, it's actually been a very positive experience. I think it's made me a lot braver than I've ever been before. And it's made me stop planning and organising and controlling and living more in the present. I know that's a bit of a cliche when I say that too, but it's very true. And all the little things that used to bug me or annoy me, or, you know, even bad traffic or whatever, you know, you very quickly learn to get perspective. Our family time is so much more precious to us. And the girls, I think it's been great for them, if that's possible, because we spend so much more quality time together. We go away for weekends regularly. We don't take anything for granted. So it's actually been quite a positive experience in every other aspect, apart from the fact that, you know, you're unwell and you've got this constant fear living with you. You just have to, as I try and learn, to put it away and focus on now.
You're a woman on a mission.
I am.
I love it. And if I could round it off with one more question. If you could define bravery, or what brave means to you, what would you say?
I think bravery is probably seeing something that has to be done, something tough that has to be done, and doing it. Not shying away from the fight, even though it can be easier to do that. Stepping up for others.
Throwing your hat in the ring.
Yep, that's right.
Yep, I love it. Thank you so much.
Thank you for inviting me. I really appreciate it.
I appreciate your story. I appreciate what you're doing. I appreciate the message. For anyone watching, support ovarian cancer and getting this research happening, because it is important for the lives of women. Thank you, Leane.
Thank you, Jules. Thanks for having me.